Hello, welcome to the last week of this massive open online course Introduction to PLSQL Program Units. You are viewing the fourth video of this week, Introducing PLSQL Triggers. As a post-appraisal activity, Jill's organization announced salary hikes to some of its employees. The employee update form provided by the new HR administration system allows the HR administrators to update these salary changes easily. However, as per the organization's policy, any employee who has not completed 1 year of service in this organization is not eligible for a salary hike. The HR administrators have requested Jill to enhance the employee update form such that, by default, it doesn't allow updating the salary of any employee who joined this organization within a year from now. Jill decides to explore PLSQL to identify which of its features can help her implement this requirement easily and effectively. She figures out that triggers are very effective to implement such automated validations before making any updates to the table. This is one of the many scenarios where PLSQL triggers are very useful. So, let's proceed further to understand what triggers are. A trigger is a PLSQL block that is stored in the database and executed in response to a specified event. The Oracle database automatically invokes a trigger when specified conditions occur. In this scenario, Jill can create a trigger with the logic to validate the employee's service period and have it executed every time before updating the salary field in the employees table. Based on the validation, she can either proceed or stop the update operation for that record. In this case, Jill creates a trigger on the employees table. However, triggers can also be created on a view, schema, or database itself as per the requirements. What we have discussed in the beginning of this video is just one of the many situations where triggers are of great help. But that's not everything where triggers are useful. You can also use triggers to log events, gather statistics on table access, modify table data when DML statements are issued against views, enforce referential integrity constraints when child and parent tables are on different nodes of a distributed database, prevent DML operations on a table based on application requirements, prevent invalid transactions, and implement complex business rules. Before proceeding further, let's look at the components of a trigger. A trigger is made up of a trigger event and a trigger body. A trigger event determines the condition which prompts the database to fire the trigger automatically. You can even specify a time when the trigger is expected to be invoked. However, defining triggers that are invoked based on events is more common. As the name implies, the trigger body consists of a set of PLSQL statements that gets executed whenever the trigger is fired. Let's explore the triggering events further. A triggering event can be a simple delete, insert, or update statement on a specific table or view, a create, alter, or drop statement on any schema object, any database event such as database startup or shutdown, a specific server error, or a user logon or logoff. Triggers are classified based on their triggering event, how they are organized, and for what type of statements they execute. Accordingly, there can be simple DML triggers that are defined to execute before, after, or instead of a DML statement. Compound triggers, those that have a single trigger defined to execute over multiple events, or system triggers or schema triggers that are defined to execute on events pertaining to the database or schema. The triggering event might be either a DDL statement or a database operation. Consider a scenario where you want to perform a complex security check on the current user before updating a very critical table in a database. Now just imagine the user is trying to update 10 records of this table. Do you think it's necessary to authenticate the user before updating each record? That is 10 times? Obviously no, right? So You need a statement level trigger in this case. A statement level trigger is fired only once in response to the triggering event, irrespective of the number of rows that is affected. In fact, this trigger gets fired even if no rows are affected at all. But imagine another case where you create a trigger that validates the data being updated into a table in the database. It is very clear that you want this trigger to get fired for every record being updated. In this case, you need another type of trigger called row level trigger. A row level trigger fires each time the table is affected by the triggering event. You will learn how to create, compile, and test triggers in the upcoming video. In this video, you should have learned what triggers are and where they are applicable. You also learned what a trigger comprises of, what different triggering events are, and how triggers are classified based on the triggering event and the type of statements they execute. To practice what you learned, solve the assignment posted for this video on the OLL course page. Please post your questions, if any, in the course forum whose link is shown here. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great day.